Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ground Up with Natalie, where I hope you're coming to feel re-inspired and motivated every single week. Today, I'm chatting with my good friend, Brock O'Hearn, who is an entrepreneur and actor. He stars in a bunch of Tyler Perry movies and makes guest appearances in Euphoria, Righteous Gemstones, and Young Rock. I am so excited for you guys to hear our conversation today. We get into his ground up story. We talk about the industry and entrepreneurship and a bunch of projects he has coming up. So thank you for coming back. And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to rate it. And thank you to Mastermind Media for producing this episode today. Well, we start every Ground Up episode with the Ground Up 3, which are 3 very intense questions that I have to ask you. Question number 1, where are you from, Brock?
Wow, I was expecting what's my favorite color.
Close.
Yeah, I'm from the same place you're from, Orange County.
Yay, Orange County, Mission Viejo.
Mission Viejo, San Juan, Dana Point, all that. Yeah. We moved around a lot.
Fun fact, Brock and I have known each other for 14 years. We just said this on your podcast, but I think I was 14 and I'm 28. That's 14 years.
Good math.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate that.
I love my sister. She's going to hate me for saying this, but she probably wouldn't have figured that one out. She hates math. She would figure that out. That was a joke, but
she's like a baker now, so she has to be good at math. Well, she designs, so she's artist through and through.
Oh yeah, she's a full-on artist and massive in love with music, and she's the cool one.
Yeah, truly. Since I was 14, she was always so cool, and I looked up to her style, the way she moved through life in general. I'm like, Carly, how do you do that? I'm trying so hard to be cool, and you are just organically effortlessly doing it.
Welcome to my life. I grew up with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is awesome. She's my favorite person on the planet, without doubt. Yeah.
She's getting married this year.
She is.
How do you feel about that, guys? Brock's sister, who's my best friend, is getting married this year. How do you feel about your baby sister getting married?
Is this question too?
No.
Oh.
Sidebar.
She asked me to officiate, so it's gonna be. I'm looking into how to do that and everything. It's gonna make me start crying. We can't cry on this podcast. All right, come on, Dave. I'm very happy. Yeah, I'm very happy for her. I'm so grateful. She's very happy, and she found a great guy. He's a very good guy, and I love Tanner. And it's wild. It's surreal. I'm excited one day to meet some new nephews or nieces. It's just she's so cool, and I couldn't be more happy for her. I can't explain it. I
love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I will start crying if I keep talking.
Okay. Yeah, you guys have a very tight family knit there, and I know she's so grateful to have you as her big brother too. Yeah. Okay, second question. What was your first job?
First job, in general?
In general, ever paid?
Well, first thing I ever got paid for, I grew up skateboarding, and I used to make bracelets for some of the people. It was just a way to get $1 or $5 here and there or whatever. So that was the first thing. But I think my actual first job, I was 15, and I was working the night shifts at a bakery for my buddy's dad's company. Horrible pay, free cookies. It was a good deal.
Wow. There you go. Yeah. I thought it was Abercrombie. That was later.
That was was that first? Before that, right out of high school, which I also graduated at 17. Yes, I listened to your podcast. And so I graduated at 17. As the day I turned 18, I moved into my aunt and uncle's RV. They had an RV at the back of their house. So I moved in with them. So technically my first apartment, whatever you want to call it. I worked for his company as a trade doing air conditioning for a year and a half. And then after that is when I moved back to Orange County because I burnt my face off, and I always wanted to be an actor. And I literally burnt on a pipe. I was welding. My whole beard came off, and it scabbed immediately. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to do anything now. I'm screwed. And then a week later it came off, and I was like, I quit. I'm gonna go chase my dream now.
Yeah. Thank you. Good life lesson to start you off.
And then it was Abercrombie. Yeah.
Wow.
Which still can't breathe the same.
Yeah. From the fumes in there that all of us children inhaled.
Brutal.
Wow. So that's already 5 jobs before you even started pursuing acting.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple more mixed in there too, but eventually it turned into personal training, which I did in person for a while, and then I started building social media, And then that started to and then I built an online personal training business, which ended up leading me or allowing me I never knew anything about business and I was always used to being broke. So I figured it out. It was enough to get me to LA though. And to, sleep on a buddy's couch for a little while and then another buddy's couch and then another buddy's couch and so on and so forth.
Eventually you got your own couch,
eventually
guys.
I got my
Plot
own.
twist.
Yeah. So it all ended up working out a bit, but yeah, a couple things. And then end of the day, I just knew I had to be here for whatever reason. And I heard you say it as well on your earlier episode. And if you just know, it doesn't matter how far you are. Like if LA was in Tokyo, I would have gone to Tokyo, I would have found a way.
Something I always say is, at least we're so lucky that we knew, because the next question is, what was your first dream job? Sorry, what was your first dream job, which is when you were like little, right?
Little?
Yeah.
Paleontologist.
Oh.
Since I was like 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's that again?
I was born in 91 and it was not too far off from when Jurassic Park came out. So it's digging up dinosaur bones.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Not far off from mine, which is a chemist.
Yeah.
So
which is amazing.
Here we are.
That could go up in flames. I don't know. A lot of things could happen with a chemist.
Yeah.
Where would you go if you were a chemist? Like, what would be the next phase?
It was a really small phase of my 7-year-old life that I was super into chemistry, and I was a chemist for Halloween. I had the white coat, and I would get these science kits from Discovery Kids from the mall over there. It came with fake blood and a telescope, and I would look in the thing, and I would build this little laboratory under my staircase.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that...
You're like a chemist Harry Potter.
Yeah, I was like, I want to be a chemist on TV. That was very short-lived, though.
That was my favorite thing about, I acted in a play when I was 12 and I got hooked on that. And I think the main reason I got hooked was, besides I was so shy growing up, but I had this one teacher in 7th grade that taught me acting, and he was so kind and so giving and so generous and like everything. It inspired me and at a young age. And then I grew up with movies that were at a very early age, my only escape. And then it turned into working out. And obviously I fell in love with so many different kinds of films. But you look at these, for me as a male, looking at these leading males and superheroes and all this stuff, I was like, I want to become that in real life, whatever that is, and tell those stories and give that back one day. That was my real thing. And then it sounds like a pipe dream when you're young, and especially when you're told no or it's not possible from everybody around you, regardless if it's, friends or family or just random people. Eventually, one day you just got to go for it.
Yeah. And so there were so many things in between because, again, you can't just tell your mom, unless you're lucky where you have a mom that's like, yeah, let's move to LA and I want to take you to every audition and do everything. So we kind of I have the same thing as you. I knew very young that I wanted to be an actor, and I would tell my mom, I want to be like on Disney Channel. And she's like, oh, like she wanted to give it to me so bad, but didn't know how. Yeah. And she has other kids and a life. Like they can't just uproot. So then I feel like we go through this phase of like high school and figuring ourselves out and having jobs that are, whatever, restaurants or I worked at Albertsons, Abercrombie. And then finally, once we get to that point where it's like, oh, that dream, like I can pursue it now. I can move to LA and I can save up and do that thing. And so is that what you did? You essentially were like, so tell me about, you started on social media essentially. Yeah. And I remember Carly telling me one day a long time ago, she's like, yeah, Brock started like, she's like, you remember like hashtags? Like he, was like, fuck it. And was on there like just posting all the time. And I'm wondering where you got that confidence to not, I feel like so many people are like, oh, what are people going to think of me, especially 5 years ago? Or did you have this blind confidence that?
I think then I don't as much, if at all anymore, care what people think, especially as an actor. I've learned to really, it makes you, I believe, a better actor when you don't care about other people's opinions.
You have to.
Care about what you're doing, I think, obviously, and care about the character and developing a story and all the other stuff that goes into it. But early on, it wasn't even as much about caring what people thought, which I think I cared way too much, and I was very insecure and worried about all the outside world. I could see how Instagram worked. So it was about learning the algorithms from the front side of it, where, oh, okay, if I do this, if I post in this, formula, it garners these results. If I do hashtags, the reason I did hashtags, like back in the day, before Instagram, what it is now, or 5 years ago, or even whenever. It sounds crazy. It's like a decade ago now.
I know.
I didn't understand it at all. I didn't join for at least a year or two after everyone else was already doing it for a while. And what I learned was if you wanted to get more followers, you needed more exposure. And the only way to get more exposure at that time was you have to enter these contests on bigger accounts and they would shout you out. And one of the little hacks I learned very early on was the hashtags. And this is probably what my sister was talking about, was I looked up the top 100 hashtags that get, and there's fake bots, right? So I'd enter a contest and they would say, and at that point, it wasn't even like how many followers you had versus how many likes, or it was just whoever gets the most likes. If you have 5 followers or if you have 500,000, it doesn't matter. Whoever gets the most likes win this contest, they get shouted out by this company or this Instagram page. I would hashtag all of these hashtags, and I learned through doing that, you can't post 100 at one time. What I had to find that one little sweet spot, which was 30.
Okay.
So I'd do the top 30, get all the fake bot likes I could possibly get out of it, and then delete them, put the next 30, get all the likes off that one, let them run their course, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then obviously organic as well. But I would do that as much as I could until I had the most amount of likes, and I get shout out, and then all of a sudden, boom, I got 10,000 followers from a shout out.
And those were the organic followers.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're getting it from...
They're real followers. The likes on those particular posts were not.
So you cracked the code. You figured it out.
That was one of the things, yeah.
One of the things that you did.
And it's just because I became obsessed with it, and it's not like I didn't have like a real job. Like Abercrombie was a part-time thing, you know, and all the other jobs I really had were kind of that way. So as it started to grow, I became more obsessed, and then I tried all these different things, and then one thing blew up, which I'm going to talk about that till the day I die.
Wait, what was it?
I put my hair in a bun and it went viral.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I did that, but it was because I was trying to put content out consistently because I saw the growth through the consistent content. And it didn't matter what I could post a surfing video, I could post a guitar video, I could post me working out, whatever. And for whatever reason, that one caught fire and did like 100 million views or something crazy, which nobody was going viral at the time.
Right.
Changed my life, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's what got me really to move here and chase the dream.
I didn't know any of that. I'm so happy that we got into that. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so then you came to LA. What age is this? 21?
Probably around 21. Okay,
so 10 years ago.
Yeah, I was trying to get out here because I graduated high school. I did a year and a half there at the trade after high school. And then I did Abercrombie, then I did True Religion.
Oh yeah, True Religion.
And then I went to while I was at True Religion. Yeah, True Religion.
I remember being like, Carly's brother works there at True Religion. What was it? Fashion? Or which mall was it?
Mission Viejo.
Yeah, Mission Viejo Mall.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I remember.
I don't even think it's there anymore.
No, it's not.
I haven't been there that mall in years. But I got scouted for D1 football 3 times while working there, just because I was obsessed with working out and I was extremely athletic. I was very fast as well. But it was people that didn't even see me work or play or do anything. And then I got offered a scholarship for track and field. Never did track and field.
What?
Like all of this stuff because I was just physically like crazy. And same thing happened with rugby. I went to Utah one time and they're like, dude, we'll give you a scholarship to play on our team, please. We don't have anyone like you. Come on. I'm like, guys.
You're like, guys, what is rugby? I don't even know.
And same thing with football. I moved around so much growing up. Like high school, I switched 9 times. Middle school was like 4 or 5, maybe 6. I don't know. Elementary was the same. So moved so much, I wasn't able to play any sports. So what did I have consistently was, for me, movies and working out, Wow. So I became obsessed with fitness and health. And so I went to Saddleback. They wanted me to play football there, which was our community college, and I didn't know what the game plan was. Like, should I go with this guy who the last 3 people he scouted, his wife came in after, and she's like, the last 3 guys he scouted all went pro. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Did you even have a passion for football? Like,
no.
I'm missing the link between.
No, exactly. I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't because I didn't have it. What I had growing up was, skateboarding and surfing and painting and, and movies.
So you were put in a box very young, because I want to get into casting directors putting us in boxes, but they were like, and so you were even like, especially someone that's moved around so much, there's not that much structure and stability. You're like probably confused. Like, is this it? Should I go with this route? And
it was so funny because these numbers they're throwing around, like, when I went to the community college, they wanted me to play wide receiver, and I knew I was kind of tall to play wide receiver, but they just had a guy that was 2 inches shorter than me, slow as can be. I remember watching his tapes. The coach was showing me, and he was like, "This guy just got a $300,000 ride to USC, like a full ride," and he was set. And I'm looking at it. I was like, and he's like, I can already tell you right now, just from looking at you, you're faster than this guy. And I looked at the tapes. I watched this. I ran, my sprint. I did sprints. I did all the stuff. I was way faster. But I remember going to the game the first time and I watched the team play, and no offense, guys, but it was so bad that I didn't even want to play on the team. And I didn't even step on the field. I never put pads on or anything. And I just remember like, dude, these guys are horrible. And I just knew instantly I was more athletic than the majority of the people, at least on the team that I could see.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't exciting to me.
Right. No one inspired you that you didn't look at it like, I want to be a part of that action.
Yeah. And if that was my best shot at the time, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I also was paying for college myself, working at a job that was minimum wage and part-time. And I didn't know anything about what it would, take to do all that stuff. I just knew that, I didn't start my clock. So I took 2 classes. And this is to the point of all this was one of those classes was a health and fitness class, like a nutrition class, which I loved. And the other one was a career planning class because figure out what I wanted to do.
Right.
Acting and all the other stuff was a pipe dream. It was impossible. It seemed like at the time. And the second weekend, they gave me a piece of paper, and this piece of paper it had 3 columns, and it said, here's how much money you can make. This is how much time it's going to take, and these are all the jobs and that you can have. And so I was like, well, I'm going to look at the best one. What's the best one? It literally said, a doctor, 8 years of your life, $150,000 a year. I was like, 8 years?
Yeah.
And then I'm only going to make $150,000. And keep in mind, this is somebody that has like $200 to their name, and I'm sitting here like, I don't even want to be a doctor, and I respect the hell out of doctors, but like, it's not where my heart or mind is going.
To spend 8 years on pursuing
on it, and what if, because what if I don't make it, or I'm not smart enough, or I don't pass the test,
also,
or I don't make it that long.
You have to take out a bunch of student loans because you don't have someone paying for your college.
Exactly. And and then I knew that part too, I don't have someone paying, and I didn't have the money to finance it. So and then I was thinking, okay, well, how much debt am I going to be in by the time I get there? And then I'm only making $150,000, and then you have taxes on top of that. I'm like, I was like, this sounds crazy. You'd have to love it. And I literally walked out of the class that day. I never went back. And then that's when I finished off my nutrition class, because I did love it. And then I was like, I'm going to LA. I'm figuring it out. I don't care what it is. I'm figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I lived in a house with like 8 people, the first one. And then I finally got my first place. And then I got robbed there and left homeless. And then that was in that position for a few months, living out of my truck. And
throughout this, you're doing the social media stuff.
Which
makes sense, right? You're kind of obsessing over this one thing that you kind of have control over in a way. And you're almost hoping that that's like your ticket out in some way.
Yeah. It was definitely opening doors as far as like being able to meet people, and I was getting offered stuff, and it was so funny. There was a pivotal moment of I had to change my mindset in what I believed I deserved, because I kept unintentionally, subconsciously, I would even say self-sabotaging. So I would get so close to a job, and then for whatever reason, it would just fall apart. I'm like, guys, I thought we were doing this deal. Like, what happened? And every now and again, I'd get one here and there, and it would be nice. You get a nice paycheck from whatever, like $5,000 somewhere, which was a massive amount of money to me at the time.
You're talking about social media.
Social
jobs.
media,
okay.
Yeah, promoting companies and stuff like that. And it was still a pretty new space.
Yeah.
But it just was never sustainable. It was never enough. And at that time, I probably only had a couple 100,000 followers, which is still good. It was really good.
Yeah, for 10 years ago.
But I didn't know anything about business. I didn't have a team. I didn't have no one to mentor me. And so finally, there was one point where I changed my mindset, and I was like, you know what? I do deserve this. Like, I just felt it for the first time in my life, and some big life moments happened to where I said no to some stuff and changed some relationships in my life. And it opened up that door, and then I got my first apartment with that $10,000, which I kind of had to mess with some numbers on the on the account to get me in there, but I got in, and then from there I had enough drive to get. That was my first place, and that was the first place in my life that I've lived for 2 years consistently.
By yourself?
By myself, yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, and then I moved on from there and ended up getting another place, and then getting my house. And
you've just been building since there, truly, from the ground up.
Yeah. Oh, nice plug.
Okay, so what I want to know now, my favorite part about this is like you have to learn every aspect of everything that you're doing. Like you said, you didn't know business, but you had to learn like how to negotiate deals. I feel like something with social media for me at least is some of my friends are like, you should be doing paid posts. Like you should be. And I'm like, I respect people so much that do that. But for me, it takes so much time and energy, right? That I'm putting into acting or like my businesses or the podcast or whatever. I'm like, I want it to just be like, oh, Natalie, will you be our brand ambassador? We'll pay you $200,000. You know, like I'm currently not interested.
We're all waiting for that, by the way.
Yeah, we're all waiting for that. Guys, it hasn't happened, but if anyone's interested, I do have 50,000 followers. Sponsor. So you're trying to grow into, when did you find out that you wanted to do acting, and how did you get an agent and a manager? Because even though people probably think it was easy, oh, you have 200,000 followers, it's like, no, you still have to pitch yourself to agents and managers.
Yeah.
Like to get on TV is fucking hard.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
People think like, oh, well, she, has it, or he looks like that, or did it. It's like, dude, no.
It's not like that at all.
One in a lot.
Well, I remember looking up some stat, and every stat's true. So
You were doing your research.
Yeah, exactly. But this one was about actors, and they're saying, only really 1% of actors, it's the most likely to fail job that you can have, essentially. Because only 1% of actors are paid actors, and that's including, and of course that's a stat. I can relate and say it's probably pretty true, because most of the people in LA that are pursuing it aren't working, and that's in LA. But that includes people in the middle in like Ohio getting paid $12 for a play or something like that, or whatever it is. And so I ended up going into a modeling agency first, because as I built my following, I was like, well, I don't know anything about acting or the industry, but I could probably stand in front of a camera, I could try that, and maybe that'll get me in the doors of where I need to go. And that was a whole process too. And I ended up signing I went to Ford Models, and I told them I was 6'5", not 6'7". And the woman was like, we love your look. You took great stills or whatever they're called. I don't even remember.
Yeah. Stills. What are they? But it's called.
They have like Polaroids.
Polaroids. Yeah.
And but she was like, honestly, our tallest talent here is 6'3", and so you're too tall. But she gave me the most encouraging speech of like, just don't stop, chase it. You have a great look.
Was nice.
It was so nice, because that doesn't happen all the time either. Yeah. So the next agency I went to, literally that day, they're like, we want to sign you across the board. It was a smaller agency. I signed with them. Horrible experience. I was locked into the contract for a year. I couldn't get out of it, and I lived in Orange County at the time, so it was like such a crazy moment. And something happened in our family that it deterred. I couldn't come to LA, and I just had to be there for my family at the time. And so finally, when I was ready to come back, they didn't pick up my calls. They were doing like I called them, and they're like, "Who's this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's Brock." And I'm like, "Oh, we haven't heard from you in forever." And I'm like, "I know, but I'm ready to come back to work. Like I'll do whatever it takes. Like I'm so sorry." They didn't care what the situation is or what was going on. There's definitely no sympathy or empathy in that position.
Right.
Anyway, so they end up, the call cut out halfway. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Okay. And I was like trying to explain the situation. I'm ready to come back to work. I called back, and my agent answered again, and she goes like, hello, this is who's calling? Can I ask who's calling? And I was like, oh, it's Brock. And then hung up again.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So what did I do? Turn on. That was a horrible sound for a car turning on. That sounds like how my car sounded turning on, to be honest with you. Back in the day. Wow. And so I ended up driving straight to the office, straight to their agency. And I went and sat in the office. And I remember there was one moment where I was sitting there, and I could see my agent's office through the hallway, and I saw her back there. And then she caught wind of me and like hid and like pushed all her stuff aside and hid on the side. And then a different agent came out, and she's like, Brock, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I came to work. Like I want to get I'm here following up. Like I'm
signed with you.
I'm signed with you guys. Yeah. Like I want to get this going. Like it's time, And she's like, oh, well, your agent went out to lunch, and it was like 2 p.m. at this point, which was not uncommon or whatever,
right.
but I just saw you.
Oh my God.
And then she's like, and we don't know when she's going to come back. And I was like, oh, okay. And I ended up leaving, and I was like, that sucks. And I was locked in this contract, and I have no idea. I couldn't afford a lawyer, couldn't figure it out.
Right. And also at that time, you didn't know, because you could have technically been like, no, fuck this contract. If you don't get work within like 60 days, you're able to.
And that's stuff I don't know.
Exactly. This is stuff you don't know.
Yeah.
And this is such a typical agency, not typical, but almost scam-like type things that you have to like go through in the beginning. And Oh, I hate how they handled that for you. So unprofessional. And they have a young kid in the office.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, for me, it was a very valuable learning experience too, but it was also, that's not where my passion lied anyways. And I ended up doing a lot of modeling, and then even internationally at some points, which is really cool. But, I just was, second I started acting, I was like, I don't want to model. Like I have no desire, no passion for it, no anything. And well, what happened with me, how I really got started was, I kept growing the social media. I went into another agency, and they're like, it was at a point when agents were losing their jobs because of how big social media was getting. There's all these intermediate or middlemen that were losing their jobs, and they're like, whatever you're doing, just keep building your brand. I'm like, my brand? I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you have a ton of followers and everything. So like, we could sign you, but you're probably like, with what's going on in the industry, we don't know if you'll work full time or not. And I should have just signed anyways, but in my head, it was like basically being told no. So, so I walked
You're like,
out.
rejection.
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of what it felt like. And so I walked out, and I remember looking up, and I specifically remember seeing a Smart Water billboard with Jessica Alba. And I'm like, oh my God, it's not because she's beautiful, which she absolutely is. It is why she's on that billboard with that company. It's because of her brand. And I was like, I have to build a brand. I have to keep building my brand. And so when I started doing that, and I put more of my energy into social media, and stuff started happening. And then next thing I knew, I was on, within the same week, like Steve Harvey show, and then ABC Nightline. And it was funny because I was put in between. They do 3 sections on ABC Nightline, and the first one was the Pope. Or no, it was O.J. Simpson. Then it was me, and then it was the Pope. And it was insane. And I didn't realize the gravity of it at the time,
You're just like, yes, man, doing it all.
And so many incredible things happened, and during that time frame too. Like I remember BuzzFeed was doing this whole article on me, and they spent like a couple weeks developing and stuff like that. And while they were doing that, they were going to put me on the front page, which was like of their website, which was like 10 million plus people a day or something like that. And they were doing this whole segment on me. But while that was happening, someone posted, they have people that submit articles and stuff all the time on BuzzFeed, and someone put up an article about me, and it just organically went viral. So they were even more pumped up.
Oh, wow.
And then they're like, we want to do a meet and greet in Santa Monica on the pier. And I'm like, and it was the day before, like the night before. And I was sitting there like, I don't know if anyone's going to show up. Like what do I do here? I'm like, I'm going to look like an idiot. And they want to do all this press on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyways, I did the post. There were people who drove 8.5 hours there overnight.
You're lying.
I swear. And they're like from little children to 70, 80-year-old women showed up.
And you genuinely had this sense of like imposter syndrome, would it be?
I guess, yeah.
Of feeling like no one would show up.
Exactly. And then it turned into a whole ordeal at the time. And that was another thing so all of that stuff happened in a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends was trying to introduce me to Tyler Perry. I couldn't make the first one because I was out of town. Well, a couple weeks goes by, and he goes, Tyler wants to meet you again. And I was like, okay. I'm driving out of town. I'm sitting in 5 o'clock traffic. I was driving home to go see my family. And I was probably already an hour and a half in, and I had another hour of I was dead stop traffic. He's like, dude, he's not going to try to meet you again after this. Turn around and go meet him. He wants to meet you at 6:30 at this place. And I was like, dude, I don't even know if I can make that. So I typed it in my GPS, and it literally said, you arrive at 6:30.
Oh my God.
I was like, I'm on the way. I flipped around.
No, it's
it's like, yeah, exactly. I'll make all these weird car sounds. It's going to sound like a car breaking down is what's really going to happen. I pulled up, we do the dinner. It was cool, but it was very casual. Like it was nothing. It was me, him, and my buddy, Tyler, my buddy, and me. He was like, like it really we just had a normal conversation. He's like, you know what? You guys want to come up to the house really quick? We'll just have one drink.
Tyler said this.
Tyler, yeah. And I was like, sure, why not? What else am I doing? I just drove back here. Like, so sure. We go to the house. He shows us. It is the most incredible home I've ever seen in my entire life. It couldn't be more grand and like beautiful, and the art in there, and there's sculptures, and it's this massive mansion. The movie theater was better than any movie theater I've ever the guy's. One, he has incredible taste, but obviously but at that time I didn't know much about Tyler Perry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I'm just like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
But at the same time, through life, I've garnered a lot of experience. And, I was 23, I want to say at the time. And I remember he's like, okay, thanks for coming over. And he went to the door and he's like, you know what, let's sit in here for a second and talk, and he had this room right next to the front, and they had it was this beautiful, it looked like a canopy inside of a tent, and it was beautiful with all these books all around us and stuff. So we sit down.
You just feel inspired just by like being there.
Yeah. And it really was like, and he was such a kind and genuine person, but it really did seem like, okay, there's nothing here. But the reason he even took that meeting was because he saw ABC Nightline and he saw Steve Harvey, and he's like, who the heck is this guy that I keep hearing about, which was apparently me. But we started sitting down and talking. And I remember at one point he was like, we started getting kind of deep about just life and philosophy and stuff like that. And he goes, I didn't learn that until I was 30. I didn't understand that. And I remember us talking, and my buddy that was sitting there, I could just feel that me and him were speaking a different language.
Really?
And it was the most incredible, like mind-blowing moment. But because of that, it opened up a friendship between me and Tyler. And his whole thing was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I came here to act and I have no experience whatsoever, but this is what I want to do, And because I'd been blowing up on social media, I can't remember how much farther down the line it was, but he offered me my first movie role because he had hired a bunch of people from social media in his Boo Medea Halloween. Okay. And that was how, I still had to like audition and do all the whole process and everything like that, but got me the first role, and it was, that started the whole thing, so I definitely owe it to him as to why I'm even sitting here right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But you did so many things before that got you to that moment,
Yeah.
That were quote unquote failures, right? This weird encounter with this agency that didn't work out and people didn't believe in you. And so that was your first time on set ever?
Ever, yeah.
Was that movie. And then you did a show, one of his shows, right?
And then I did the show. Yeah, I did the show right after that because after working together, I think he saw that. And then I was in love with it too. But also that was a good fit for this character that the show he was developing. Mm. And I just remember like getting the call, and I'm sitting here like I remember sitting in the room with all the execs from TLC, and Tyler was there, and they were auditioning people, and I'm sitting here like, what is going on right now?
Oh my gosh.
This is insane. And I remember they were all prepped because they knew what they were doing. No one told me that was a big audition process. And they were like, final callbacks and stuff like that. And so they're auditioning everyone on this big stage.
Yep.
And I remember they wanted to do a chemistry read with me and the other actor. And I was like,
what is a chemistry read?
I was like, well, yeah, what's a chemistry read? And then 2, I haven't even seen a script yet. Like, what do you mean I have to go up there and like, what are you talking about? And I made a fool of myself, and somehow it ended up still working out. Like I got through it, fumbled through it enough, I guess. But, and then it became, the first show I ever booked, and it changed my life instantly. Wow. I went from, sleeping on somebody's couch to it was like, I did well that year.
Yeah, right.
And it was my first time ever seeing money, my first time ever being able to be like, I can cover that dinner, I can buy that truck I want to get now, I can do all and it really opened up my eyes to what's out there. And obviously it's been a constant evolution since, and I've fallen in love with business and this business and then behind the camera stuff, producing and eventually one day directing. And I love writing now, but it's understanding and inundating myself more into one, there was one moment, I think this will describe everything perfectly, as I was at a birthday party, which was Tyler's. And he built up this lavish, incredible space outside. And I just remember there was a couple of friends of mine there from the shows and stuff like that. And then I'm looking over and I'm like, that's Al Pacino. That's Susan Sarandon. I'm standing between Terry Crews at one point and Samuel L. Jackson. And I'm literally like, there's this tiny little table and I'm in the middle of them. And I remember Samuel L. Jackson saying, I got to turn my birthdays up. I got to step my birthdays up, and I'm sitting here like, you guys are saying that, like, what is going on right now? And I remember a couple months later, I saw he had this massive birthday party. And everyone was like dressed up to the nine and everything like that. And I'm like, I was there for that moment. And I was like, but the whole point of me saying that was I had this moment of like, what am I doing here? And I remember talking to a buddy of mine because he had the same feeling. We both were newly on Tyler shows and stuff like that. And I remember thinking, I'm supposed to be here. For whatever reason, I'm supposed to be in this room. I deserve to be here, like I belong here in a way. And it took a lot to get to that mindset and to that belief. And now, I've got incredible friends from all walks of life and all facets of, at least this industry and many others actually. And at the same time, I believe I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there. Yeah. And whatever happens is going to happen, but it doesn't undermine how hard I'm going to work for where my dreams are and where I'm going to get. But it takes the stress off of like, okay, maybe I'm not a lead on a show right now, or maybe I'm not a Marvel superhero or whatever you want to be. But at the same time, I'm happy and I love what I do and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there, So
I love that. That's such good advice for someone to say, like a mantra to them all the time, like nixing that negative self-talk and being like, nope, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
Because when you really look at your life path and what leads you to success, it's never that straight line. And you'll hear that a million times over. And maybe it sounds cliche, maybe it doesn't. But if you look at the path it takes to get there, I had gotten some of the biggest doors closed in my face only for it to open a bigger door, only for it to introduce me to some of my best friends now, only for it to make me, end up in places and see things that I remember there was one point, because of social media too, I was going on these trips getting like, they were all paid for and I was working with big companies and stuff like that. And I remember there's people like, I was not making money that they were making, these execs at these companies. And they're like, what does Brock do? I make $2 million a year and he lives a better life. I was like, I make 20,000, but I live like a king. Exactly. I'm like, let me tell you. Yeah. But it's just like, it was that scale of just, life is what you make it. And I just have been grateful for everything along the way. I don't know.
You said, big doors have slammed in your face. And I just recently had a really big brick door, just like smash in my face regarding acting. And it's hard. It's really hard.
It's a blessing.
But you're telling me it's a blessing. And it's weird because I've trained myself, right, with magic, with mindfulness and philosophy, and inundated myself with those things, I was really proud of myself for bouncing back so quickly. I cried for like an hour, and then I was like, okay, like this was meant to be, clearly. Yeah. Something bigger is happening for me, and that other thing was not meant for me, and my agents and managers were just like, I am so sorry. Like, they were emotional. They're like, this must be, hard. Like, take the time. And I'm like, no, like, and I'm not blocking it out or suppressing, the rejection that just happened to me. I'm still feeling it, but I'm like, no, let's go on to the next, send me more auditions. Like, let's get this ball rolling. So
I heard it from, I think Dave Chappelle at one point. He was in an interview. And I've heard a few people say this, but the people that are at the top of this industry are some of the strongest people you're ever going to meet. But it's because of moments like that. Moments, one, there's a whole nother category of things that happen in their personal lives, right? But you get told no almost daily, and on a regular basis. And most people, I had a conversation with a friend 2 days ago who's hyper successful in the space that he works in. And he goes to me, he's like, I don't know how you do it. He's like, I could not handle being told no. Like I would not be able to be an actor. I wouldn't know what to do. And that's why I do what I do, because he has control over it and to that degree. And I was saying, I totally understand, but that's one of my favorite things about acting is it's taught me more about myself than I could ever wish for or hope for, and that's not only in being told no and learning from those rejections. It's also in, studying a character, deep diving different people and how they work and their personality types, and and also me wanting to develop as a person. The where I started at and who I was versus who I am now and who I'm going to be one day are completely different versions. And I just think that it's constantly an evolution. And there was something that people would tell me a lot when I was younger, regardless of where I was at in life, and they would say, "Oh, you're so good where you are. Don't ever change," And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, I am never going to want to stop changing. I'm going to want to evolve and grow and become the best version of myself for the rest of my life. And I'm like, if I stayed here, you don't understand how much hurt is in here, or you don't understand how much will and drive and hope and like how many dreams are in here. If I stay here, then I don't get to those, And so I've always been a fan of, regardless, it could be your sleep habits. It could be, you hear a quote at the right time. It could be a mentor. It could be the right book at the right time, but always seeking, those, whether it's discomfort or whatever it is, but always seeking a better version for yourself because you deserve that, you know, and there is no pinnacle in life. And that's the thing that I love about acting is that there is no like, oh, you reach the peak and that's it. It's like, guess what? There's a different peak over there. There's a forest over there. There's a, you know, there's as many different weird, like there's a different dimension over there. Like there's nowhere to just peak out and stop. So it's about understanding that and taking life as you go and showing up where you are at that time. But I think there's just really no limit to personal growth and career growth and, you know, just life in general.
Yeah, I feel like acting really offers a chance for us to grow as human beings, like as a job, whereas like maybe a normal job, it's so consistent. You don't really have to possibly, I don't know, I've never had a 9 to 5. Well, I worked at a debt collecting company once for 2 weeks.
You probably called me a few times.
In a cubicle. Rock O'Hearn, San Juan Hills.
We're going to hit next skip on this one, please.
Within, you know, that growth in between pursuing and roles and all these no's, is that why you think that you've created all these other endeavors? I know for me that's the case, right? I have so much time off with acting. You're like free until you're not, right? Yeah. You're like, I always tell people, they're like, can you get lunch in 3 weeks? And I'm like, if I'm not in China filming a movie, yes. Yeah. Like I'm free until I'm packed, busy. But this is what's, you know, allowed me to develop magic. And so for your podcast that you have, Studio 22, is that what the podcast is called?
Yeah.
Okay. And everything that you're doing with Will and the business endeavors that you're having, is that from you just being like, I don't know, just developing your purpose in life and staying busy, right?
Staying busy is one thing. I mean, I have friends that all they want to do is act, so all they do is wait for the auditions and
that's so interesting to me because I have friends like that too. I don't comprehend it.
I don't either. And it's but it's teach their own. You know, and I don't judge it, and at the same time it's what works for them to a degree, right? Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Some of them are happiest people I've ever met, some of them are absolutely miserable, you know. So it's about, I think, finding that balance for you, and exactly what you're saying. Like I put so much into myself for years, and you know, we had that, whatever you want to call it, but it feels like a big reset in a way with COVID, where I didn't work at all, like maybe 1 job or 2 jobs the year before, and then it was that, and then I was like, oh, I'm definitely not working. This is going to be a rough little bit of time, and I'm seeing the numbers in the account go down, and I got lots of bills, and I was putting so much energy into just doing that. And
doing acting,
yeah. Oh. And so when I came out of that, and I'd done, you know, obviously social media and stuff that was helping a lot. But I fell in love with marketing. You know, I fell in love with storytelling even deeper, and reading and developing and writing. And so when I came out of it, I was like, I needed that to slow down and to take a look around and to see where I'm at in life and who I am. And then moving forward, I was like, what am I doing? Like, I love business. I love creating. And I know that for me, acting was not ever or is never going to be the end all be all. It's, you know, it's an opportunity to do what I love and hopefully on the grandest scale I can possibly do it. But
couldn't agree more.
And it's such a useful tool if you want it to be, and it is whatever you want it to be. Because like I said, I've been in rooms that I can't believe could ever be in. And I've had experiences that are now normal to me that would be life-changing for somebody else to talk about that moment for the rest of their life. And I'm grateful for those. But at the same time, I'm surrounded by so many people that have had so much success where I was like, I love business. It's time for me to do business, you know, and it's time for me to create revenue streams that, you know, will give me more freedom to do what I love, or to even invest in more in what I love. And whether that's on the producing side or whether it's just not having to think twice about any other bills or you know, a mortgage or whatever it is. And so I fell in love with that. And now it's been, you know, a fun process. We've got a really cool thing going with our comic book, Kane, which is every day changing in the most beautiful way. And partnerships are coming up that we were like, this is just insane. And that dream is every time you water it a little bit more, it grows. And seeing that take off and what it looks like from the outside perspective versus what it really is and what I think it's going to be one day is, you know, night and day difference.
Wow.
And same thing with the podcast. You know, we started it, and one of the main reasons I wanted to start it was because I believe, and I'll continue to believe this to the day I die, that my career is going to keep on growing. And so I was like, well, I could be a little better at interviewing. I could be a little better at maybe a talk show if I get to that point. So I wanted to just keep continuing sharpening that skill.
I love that. It's like practice.
Exactly. And I also love people, and I love diving into people's mindsets and understanding how they work and what makes them tick and why they are who they are or where they are in their life. And that was another way to do that. And it's increased my mindset because I take little nuggets from each person every time we have a convo and I apply them myself. And, not everyone gets to listen to every single podcast that we do or that you're going to do as you continue to do it. And there's going to be some that will, right? But you get to sit in every single one. You get to have those conversations. And wherever you're at in your life at that time, there's a lot of times going to be that one little thing that you heard that's going to change you a little bit and make you a little bit better. And that's why I love it, and I hope I can give that back to people as well. But I move out of passion. Everything I do is with passion and with love. But at the same time, I have big goals and big dreams. And I want to get to a point one day, God willing, that I have the studio that gets to hire all my friends and all the people that deserve it or deserve the first chance like I got with Tyler, and to give it back and as grand of a scale as I possibly can. And not to say that that's going to happen or not, but it's a goal,
Yeah. Well, if you continue with the freaking mindset that you have and the grit and the perseverance, and you're so young too.
And listening to Ground Up.
And listening to Ground Up every single Wednesday at midnight. You're just continuing to grow. I can't believe to hear that just 2 years ago during the pandemic. Oh my God, just kidding. 3 years ago now.
That's crazy.
You were kind of, not stagnant a little bit, like, okay, let's do that. Haven't, booked a couple things in 2 years. Now realizing that it's going to probably be another year at the time you probably thought, or a few months where like nothing's going on. And so you think that these new discoveries with your businesses was because you took that time, you took that inventory on what's going on inside to be able to cultivate that.
I think it was also exactly that. Yeah. And I think it was also a sense of it's time for me to commit. It's time for me I owe it to myself. I need to get out of my own way. And I know I have what it takes to do what I want to do. Go do it. Because you can wait. It's the same reason I moved to LA in the first place is I kept having people every day, oh, you should play. When I was at True Religion, for example, people every day would be like, oh, you should model, you should act. My aunt's a manager. Oh, you should play D1 football. Oh, my cousin's an agent. I should introduce you guys. And so it was a whole year of that. And I'm sitting here like, okay, now today's the day. Someone's going to come in. They're going to, take me to Hollywood, or whatever. The day never came.
No.
The end of the year came and I looked at how much money I made and it was so embarrassing because of the time I felt like I put in that store that I was like, I'm done.
I don't have a choice.
Yeah, I don't have a choice because I'm not going anywhere with this. This is not progressing me anywhere. No one came in. No one's going to give me the golden ticket. And
no one's going to give you the golden ticket.
That was the conversation I had with myself was no one's going to give me the golden ticket. And my mindset from literally January 1st of that year moving forward was, okay, maybe maybe it'll come along and I'll get the golden ticket somehow, right? Maybe. Most likely not. So that could happen. I'm not going to rule that out. But what can happen is I can go there and I can earn it and I can build it and I can grow it. And that will definitely determine if I can do it or not. And that is why I moved to LA because it was the whole, the golden ticket's there or it could be there metaphorically. But truth be told, if I earn it, then I know it'll happen. And that was why I was like, I'm going to LA.
Let's go.
And
let's do this.
It's the same thing with your career. It's the same thing with your business, with your relationships, your friendships, whatever it is. If you put in the work and the time, it'll come back.
Yeah.
It'll pay dividends back towards you.
Yep. It's like a flower. If you water it, it'll grow. If you don't, it'll die.
Exactly. And we love living flowers.
We do. We love watching them bloom, just like our careers and our relationships.
Exactly.
I love that. I think that that's such a great place to end at here because I think a lot of people are waiting for the golden ticket or they think that they're going to be discovered in a Starbucks line, or even if you're not in the entertainment industry, if you're doing something else, you think that it's going to come along. No, what's going to come along is 10 years and you're going to look back and what you wanted to do, you didn't do. And that's okay. It's not for everyone, but if you have a dream or something that you want to pursue, like start taking action now and failing, because you need like 1,000 failures, I think, before you get one little success.
And that's the secret right there is get comfortable in failure. Understand that failure is only the opportunity to more intelligently begin again. Failure gives you an education, you know, and I think that, they say knowledge is power, right? It's, and what I've come to understand by reading a lot of philosophy stuff is knowledge is nothing without action. If you're not taking action and you're not learning, you're not failing, you're not growing, you're never going to get to where you want to go, and even with that golden ticket, if you get there, the chances are you're probably not going to stay there very long. One of the best pieces of advice I got from a very, very successful friend of mine was, it's hard to get to the top. It's even harder to stay there.
Wow.
So when you realize that, it's always going to be hard work, but your threshold and what you're able to handle can grow. And just like your ability, when you're told no every single time, it does something to you, and it'll either break you or it'll make you. And it's just what you allow it to do. And if you understand that, okay, that no affects me this way, I get anxiety every time I hear this, or every time I got to open one of these emails or whatever it is, figure out why that is, go to the root cause of whatever it is, and really figure out on healing it or changing the way you feel or react to it. I've come to find that, life isn't what happens to us. It's how we react to it. And our reactions are everything in the world around us. Simple example, if I get cut off in traffic, which happens every day in LA, I can get upset, I can freak out, I can get out of the car, I can yell at somebody, they can do the same, and we can get into a major, fight or whatever, and go to jail and change my whole life. Or I can be like, that person's probably having a bad day, or how am I going to take 2 deep breaths, or, or just keep cruising, turn up the volume on my thing, ignore the sound and keep going, and I'll have a great day. And neither one of our lives are affected by that, except for the fact that you can allow someone else's energy or someone else in general change your life. And it's like, well, no, I have control over my happiness. I have control over my emotion. It's time for me to figure out, or emotions are kind of crazy in general, but if I'm able to harness that, then none of that other stuff's going to affect me. Or then boom, everyone else in my life is going to benefit, including myself. One thing I always say as well is one thing I always say. I say that too much, but and now I lost my train of thought because I said that. What an idiot!
Oh no!
It was a good point too. It was a good point. It'll
come back when we're done with this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, Brock, thank you so much. If you guys want to listen to Brock spit more wisdom, go listen to his podcast, Studio 22, which is available anywhere you get podcasts. Also, Brock has a really cool fitness app that he's developing that's coming out soon. So be on the lookout for that. Where can everyone find you and follow you? And
thank you first off for saying all that. I think social media, it's just my handle's Brock O'Hearn on Instagram, and I don't really use Twitter, but it's the same on there.
Same.
Yeah.
Are you on TikTok? I know.
I have one, but it's funny. I used it for literally 2 weeks and it blew up to 300 and something thousand.
What?
2 videos. And then I just was like, I just don't want to do this.
It's too much. This is the thing.
It's amazing how, because it's kind of how, I would say even more viral than how Instagram used to be. And I think it's an incredible tool to grow an audience and it's helping a lot of people make careers and stuff, which is exactly what happened for me. But it's just, I'm at a point in my life where I've put in now a decade into making content and in that way. And now all I want to do more than anything is make the content I want, which is, film and TV and create more things. And it's how much time I knew it took, which changed my life.
Right.
And I'm going to continue to do it obviously for as long as I, have to, or even can, but it's not it doesn't drive me anymore.
Right.
I don't have true passion for it.
Yeah. It doesn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
When do you feel most authentically yourself?
I mean, when I'm moving around a lot of weight in the gym, probably.
Really?
Yeah. Really pushing myself. Cause that's where I truly first found myself, I think was I realized through that hard work, and the results I got off of it was the direct effort that I put in is what I received. And it showed physically.
Wow.
Because if you cheat yourself, you can get away with things in different aspects of life and kind of, finagle some things. But when it comes to your body and the work you put into it, the nutrition you put in your body, everything shows. If something's off or you're not losing the weight you want to lose or whatever it may be, it shows. And that's one of my favorite things about it is I learned that lesson. And I also learned from a good friend of mine, his dad. He said, whatever you do in business, do it the right way. You do it legally, do it do it correctly, and it'll always come back to you. And the same thing is in the reverse. If you do something bad, do you think I want to look over my shoulder the rest of my life? No. And I don't have to remember a lie. I can remember the truth all day, you know? And so my advice is just always do
like
good.
That.
Yeah.
I don't have to remember a lie. I can remember the truth all day.
Yeah.
I love that. I've never heard that. It's so true.
Really? Yeah. People get caught up in that all the time. And it's just, you know, it's less effort and energy. And
totally.
And what's the point of the other side, you know?
Right.
I found that so many people, they'll do all these crazy things to, you know, con somebody into giving them money, or to do, or to lie, or to do whatever it is. And I'm like, if you just took that energy and you put it into something positive, maybe it'll be hard to start up with it, but you will be so successful, if not more successful, because of that.
Definitely more.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's the harder, quote unquote, harder thing to do. But on the other side of hard things is everything that you want.
And so many of those, you know, things that are in that space, the negative space, it's just short-lived, quick grab, you know? Look at, you know, all this crypto stuff going around. These people that maybe they had billions in their accounts and stuff, but they're all going down because they scam people. You know, eventually the truth comes out one way or another. And I just, you know, I like to sleep sound, you know? I like my sleep.
Same. I was telling one of my girlfriends, I was like, yeah, I sleep like a baby every night, and I always have, knock on wood. And I sleep like 9 hours. And she's like, that's because you're like, you don't tell any lies, or like you're a good person or something. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's kind of true. Sleep like a baby. Okay, Brock, thank you so much for doing this with me today. I love chatting.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully we can do it again in the future.
We will. When I remember what I forgot, we'll have to do another.
Yeah, just text me. Okay, that's it. That's a wrap.
Thanks, Nat.
Thank you.
Pleasure.